Hello, everyone. Today is March 25th, 2022. I'm here today with Paul Tominna. Paul is a civil engineer practicing structural engineering. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Paul.
Thanks for having me, Karush. Been
You're
listening to your podcast for a while, so it's great to finally be on.
Yes, it's great to have you on.
Thanks.
Episode 69. Oh, man. Can't believe what?
I heard that we stole that number from Thaddeus, right?
Yeah, we did. We did. It was, I'm glad to have you on, though,
Glad
on
to be
this
here.
one.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah, we got it, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big accomplishment to you because you're almost at 70 now. I'm sure you've got that one lined up, too.
No.
Oh,
It's, you mean lined up as in to do?
yeah.
Oh, yes. I thought you meant lined up like, I don't choose who's going to be, like, I don't line up the guest.
Yeah, it just happens when it happens, right?
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have it lined up, do have some idea. Actually, I do have that one lined up. But it's, it is, I'm pretty happy with it. It's come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to automate it because I used to do my own video editing and that was not smart. It was just, I wasn't very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Taking up too much of your time.
a lot of time. So outsource that and it's a lot easier.
Nice.
Yes.
Very good.
Very good. But on the other, still doing a lot of, freeing up the video editing lets me do my actual practice of engineering,
Mm-hmm.
which you're an engineer.
Yes, I am. I work in structural engineering, working primarily on building type of structures. A lot of my friends actually thought I was a bridge engineer because, when I post pictures of stuff, if I'm traveling, bridges catch my eye, mostly because it's mostly structure. You can see it all.
What do you mean it's mostly structure?
As in, with a building, you'll have, the facades, and there's a lot more architecture that goes on it that kind of hides away the actual structure. But with a bridge, say with like the Coronado Bridge, you can easily see the bridge columns and then the road deck supporting it. And there's not too much aesthetics to it. It's painted blue. It looks very nice. There was, a good amount of like aesthetic thought that went into it, but at the end of the day, it is more, I would say, a structure than it is like an aesthetic, if that makes sense.
Yes. That's an interesting way to put it. I'm thinking of this bridge in Sydney, Australia right now when you say that.
Is the big one, the
Yes.
Harbor Bridge? I
Yes.
think? Yeah.
I believe that's by suspension cable.
I think it could be. I think you're right on that. Yeah, but the same thing. I mean, with those cables, those cables are structural.
Yes. And they're right there.
And they're right there, right out in front. And it's cool to see, especially, as an engineer,
Yes.
looking at these massive components that go into a structure. It's, to me, it inspires a bit of awe.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, for the layman, we take it for granted because there's a bunch of bridges everywhere.
A bunch of bridges everywhere. There's a bunch of structures everywhere.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
And there are a bunch of amazing bridges everywhere. You've got Coronado here. You've got Golden Gate. You got Bay Bridge and Golden Gate and maybe another one up north.
Yeah.
And then
I think the last one I posted about was this bridge in Tampa, Florida. It's called the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, and it's there's two vertical pylons and cables coming off of each of them in a fan pattern, and that's what's supporting the deck. And I think it's like one of the tallest points in Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
the deck.
No, I think the top of the bridge is like one of the tallest points in Florida.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
because like Florida is also just really flat.
That's incredible. Wow. That's a crazy hurricanes going through that type of bridge.
Yeah, so I was visiting my sister who's in med school over in Florida, and she lives on the Gulf side. And I guess her side doesn't get hurricanes as bad as like the rest of Florida, like Miami or
The Atlantic side?
yeah,
Jacksonville?
yeah. Where's Jacksonville?
It's like
Is that more
northeast.
Atlantic? Okay. Yeah. So when hurricanes roll by, they'll get like higher winds, but they don't get crazy wind speeds.
In Tampa?
Yeah. She's in Sarasota area, which is close to Tampa.
Okay. How is that? How you went there?
Yeah, I've been there now twice.
How do you feel about that area?
Oh, it's so cool.
In what way?
So I went once in summer to help her move apartments, and we spent some time over at the beach. And I always thought that San Diego beaches were great, but to like go and just relax at a beach, I think Florida beaches take the cake.
In what way?
It's so humid over there. It's kind of not pleasant to be outside, but when you're out next to the water, it feels like amazing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Just next to the water,
Yeah.
but inland it's not so great.
I mean, because it's humid. So,
Yes.
you walk outside and you're just like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm about to sweat.
Yes.
But when you're at the beach, you don't care because you're in the water or you're outside laying.
That
with
makes
the sun.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Humidity is a mix. Too much humidity is very crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind. We don't get any here.
No, we're so lucky here.
It's actually gotten. There's a little bit more over the last. Have you felt that?
Not too much.
Okay.
Yeah, but you have?
I feel that. I feel like there's been a higher humidity percentage in the last couple of years than like earlier, like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's it I don't know. It's not too bad. It can change a lot of things regarding structures, I imagine.
Yeah. We'll just go with bridges right now. If if you don't protect the components in your structure well, then that leads to a failure. So for a concrete structure, concrete is really poor in tension. So if you imagine just pulling on the block of concrete, it doesn't hold as much capacity in tension as it does if you were to push on it, which we call compression. But what we do is we put steel rebar into the concrete, and the steel is good in both compression and tension, and that helps strengthen the concrete in its weaker zone. But the concrete also adds a benefit to the rebar because it protects it because the rebar is inside of the concrete. But as soon as outside air or water gets into the concrete and touches the rebar, then that's when you start getting corrosion issues.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think humidity probably plays a big role in that as well. And when you're next to the ocean, you also have to have like special admixtures that you put into the concrete mix to protect the concrete from crumbling and corroding the steel.
Okay. Wow. We did have that one incident this last year I think it was in Miami.
Yeah, I think it was near Miami. I can't remember the name of the building. There were a few different theories of why it collapsed, and I don't know what the official report is, or even if there is official report. One of them was because it was right next to the ocean that it could have been a corrosion issue, and over time, you get spalling of concrete.
What's spalling?
Spalling is, so if you imagine a block of concrete, say a column, you're going to have your rebar that's inside of it. And if the rebar is running up the length with the column, you'll have these ties that are going around it, which is also rebar. And spalling of concrete means the concrete on the outside has like chipped off and fallen away, but the inner part that is encompassed by the stirrups, the ties, those are intact.
Okay.
So, I mean, concrete can spall, and it does a lot of times. Like if you were to take a hammer to, even your sidewalk, I'm sure you can with enough force, you can start damaging it. And
Wow.
and yeah,
You can damage your arm too.
you can. Yeah, you can hit the concrete, but it'll hit back.
So there's Spalding in sidewalks?
If you just walk around outside, you'll see, there's dents in the concrete. Sometimes it's crumbling. You can see that on like the curbs of sidewalks too. If you walk by a building that hasn't been maintained too well, you can see the same thing. A better example would be like right after if a car were to hit something, like those highway dividers.
Yes.
Sometimes you'll see just like spots of concrete just missing from there.
Okay. Wow. You know, it was a very impressive concrete structure.
Which one?
Qualcomm Stadium.
Yeah.
It was fully
was.
concrete, right?
Yeah, it was fully concrete. My dad actually worked on part of the expansion.
What was the expansion?
I don't know what they added, but they added something to Qualcomm, and to make it bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, sad to see that one go.
Yeah, sad. It wasn't a very nice looking stadium by the end. It was a concrete stadium.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like it was falling apart either.
No, I think they had issues with something to do with the ground, but I think it was just not what the city wanted at the end of the day, or maybe it was getting to be something like it was too much maintenance, so they decided to scrap it.
We don't have so much interest in football here.
No, but there was that bid to make a soccer stadium there.
Yes.
And I was sad to see that fail.
You were?
Yeah, I think a soccer stadium would have been a good addition to San Diego.
A campus and a park isn't too bad there.
Mm-hmm.
But, yes, campus is hard to beat up for a lot of people.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, the stadium probably would have gone through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably. So at my previous firm, we actually proposed to, design the
stadium,
the new stadium. Yeah.
Wow.
We didn't end up getting it, but it was cool to work on, some of the renderings and come up with, okay, what type of size could go here.
The SDSU one?
Yeah, the SDSU one.
Wow.
After I've been driving around it a few times, I don't think the team that we were on, it doesn't look like they selected that theme that they were going for. And I'm not sure who ended up being on the project, but it was cool being part of, that like early phase where everyone's just trying to figure out, okay, what's this going to look like? How much is it going to cost?
Yes. That's an interesting figure.
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to look like and how much is it going to cost?
Yeah.
That's a pretty incredible... stadiums are really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're some of the most incredible structures in the world.
Yeah. Have you been able to go to a few stadiums when you've traveled?
I went to Chelsea Stadium in London.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to... Honestly, no. Not too many stadiums. Have you?
No. I went once with Josh when we were traveling through Europe. We stopped in Barcelona and we got to go to Barcelona Stadium.
It's like got a famous name, right?
Yeah.
I forgot what the name
I can't
is.
remember what it is, but it was a cool, structure. But what was more impressive to me was, like the crowd and the energy over there. It's unmatched.
European soccer fans, their energy and their passion is unmatched.
Yeah, they live and breathe it.
They do. And they say some very abrasive things to each other.
Yeah, they had to kick out. It was Barcelona playing against some smaller team that was local, and the local fan had like a very small section in the stadium, and they had to escort the local fans out because the Barcelona fans were trying to climb over the barricades and like attack them.
Yes.
So they had to escort the other team out.
That's very amazing.
Yeah.
Sports. But not too much passion like that here in this city.
No, not too much. Yeah, and especially after the Chargers went away.
Yes.
All we have now are the Padres, which, they do pretty well now.
Yes.
They've got some pretty good stars on their team. And then we got the Gulls, which aren't professional, but
It's fun.
They're fun to go to.
To go to a hockey game,
Yeah.
regardless. Semi-professional, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Sports are pretty interesting to watch people do very impressive things.
Yeah. And now, I mean, we're at the age where people younger than us are now like excelling.
Yes.
That's interesting to see.
Very interesting to see. Like people 5 years younger than us.
Yeah.
Like Olympians who are 10 years younger than us.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. Kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say sad, but like, wow.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's impressive.
Impressive for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I was speaking with someone about this. Like, quarterbacks in the NFL had a huge, like, gap. Like, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers that are over 30 years old, and then these younger ones who are competing with them are like 25 and younger.
Yeah, because isn't Mahomes like pretty young?
Mahomes is pretty young, and Chargers, Herbert and
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, and I don't think Josh Allen is too old either.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a huge gap for a long time of high quality quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. And it's going to be cool because we're going to get to see those guys progress. And
Yes.
not all of them are probably going to make it to like Tom Brady's age, but
No.
it'll be cool to see which ones do end up, making their entire career just football.
Yes. I mean, we'll see. Yeah. Game is changing for sure. I wonder how the popularity of it is going.
For football?
Yeah, I feel like it's as popular as ever.
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, they keep building these, billion-dollar stadiums, so.
Yes. Sophie Stadium.
Yeah, I haven't been yet, but it looks so cool.
It looks very cool.
Have you been?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man, and you're a diehard Chargers fan, so you got to go.
I know, but I'm not a diehard City of Los Angeles fan.
Yeah.
So I
That's
haven't
fair.
made it up there yet. But I should go. I should go to one game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they keep on building incredible stadiums. And, like you said, I've only kind of been to the ones in the U.S. I haven't been to stadiums abroad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even the ones I've been to in America haven't been too many.
No.
Yeah, it's probably just been in San Diego, actually, now that I think about it. But it's going to be exciting for the World Cup.
Yes.
Which is happening in Qatar.
In November.
November, yeah. Because I don't know if you knew this, but at my previous company, I was working on one of the stadiums over there.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So
How was it?
it was cool. I mean, I knew that they were working on the project when I was interviewing with the company. And then when I joined, they were still working on it. So I got to, I was working on small parts of the project, but it's still very, rewarding. I got to see pictures of it because it's now being used as an actual stadium. Like people,
really?
Yeah, the construction's done and
people are playing in it.
People are playing in it. Had like fireworks go off.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's cool to see.
Yes.
It's something you got to work on, and for me, like across the world, is built, and people are getting to use it.
Especially at that scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very, like you said, in your face type of, like, you see it. You see the product of your work.
Yeah. And that's definitely one of the most rewarding parts about my profession, I'd say. We spend so much time just on the computer doing design, and then to go out on a site visit or see it when it's all done, and see people actually using it, like it's very rewarding.
That's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So you spend most of your time working in softwares?
Most of my time, yeah, working in softwares. We do a lot of calculations. We have to figure out if the building is going to stand.
Yes.
And there's a lot of software out there that automates that for us. There's a good amount of Excel that we still use, and every once in a while, I'll have to break out the pencil and paper and do a hand calc.
But usually it's done automated in an automated fashion through.
Yeah, usually it's automated, but it's never completely automated. There's always, a lot more that you have to consider, or you've done like the heavy lifting with the software, but there's all these like minor things that you have to break out into a different either software or application and do the calcs for it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a lot of coordination as well, because you're working with the architect. Sometimes you're working with the contractor when they're on board before, and then you have the other trades. You have your mechanical, your electrical, and then your civil engineering as well. And everyone has to be on board. Once it goes into construction, that's when you figure out all the things that weren't completely aligned between everyone, and the contractor will ask you questions. They'll propose solutions, and then the design team, figures out what to do and resolves it.
In construction.
In construction, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Most of them are minor things. It's like this is like this architectural feature is conflicting with this structural beam. What do we do here? And then both the structural engineer and the architect work to figure out what's going to happen.
Okay. Wow. A lot of coordination.
Mm-hmm. But I'm sure you see the same thing in your field too.
Yes. It's coordination is key for sure. I learned that in school when I realized all the people who communicated with everyone else was having the easiest time in the software classes. And like I was just trying to be a lonely coder, and I was just struggling, where these people were just like, oh, I don't get it. What are you doing here? And then someone would say, just explain what it means, and then where they found the resources, and then tell them, and then they had the answer, and then able to move on.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in out of school too. It's like,
I mean, it's the same thing in life. You can't do everything yourself.
No. Most of it, actually, we can't do ourselves. There's a very few things that we do for ourselves. I mean, that's not true, but...
But no, I know what you're trying to say.
We're not here foraging and hunting and farming and, trying to find water every day. It's like, that is going to come to my faucet, water. And then there's going to be a restaurant somewhere very nearby for me to go have a meal prepared for me if I want that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of outsourcing.
It is. And it's also something to be really grateful for.
Very grateful for. Very grateful for.
Because then that allows us to do, that frees up your time that you were going to spend foraging for food and water.
Yes.
And now you can do podcasts.
Exactly. And, for you as a structural engineer, for me as a software engineer, we really like our trade, and it's not easy. You said, you were working pretty hard recently, and when you're in those states, it's like a lot of other things kind of get not necessarily pushed aside, but they lose their priority level a bit.
And the worst thing that loses its priority when I get super busy is exercise. That's like the first thing I cut, and it's always the worst thing I cut.
Yes.
Because, man, without constant or regular exercise, I definitely feel, a lot foggier.
Yes.
And less energy too, which is strange.
Very strange.
Yeah.
Less energy for sure. And, as foggier and as engineers, we have, our job,
We have to think.
We have to think, but we don't have to move. And that's
Yeah.
the key. It's like,
Yeah.
don't move. Like, you have to sit right here and not move other than some hands, and that's it. If
Yeah.
you don't move, you're going to be better off. And that's like a lot of other people, like my mom, for example, works in retail, and that's a completely different game because
She's out there moving around the whole time, right?
it's like a work, like her job is a workout, where our job is like the antithesis of a workout.
It's a workout. It's just a workout of the brain.
The brain,
Yeah.
yes, that's very true.
I
And
mean,
you don't want to be foggy.
Yeah,
in
you
that
don't want to be
state.
foggy. And I don't know if you ever feel this, but after like really intense focus and concentration, like there's some days I can't do anything afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember actually it was after one of the PE exams that I took. I went, a friend was having a pool party, so I went to the store to go grab beer, and I spent, I kid you not, like 10 minutes in front of the beer aisle, and I just couldn't make a decision on which beer I was going to get because I was done. I had already done all my multiple choice questions and studied. It's like I can't make another decision right now.
That's a very cool observation.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way. That test is gnarly. Was yours 8 hours long?
Yeah, so we had the 8-hour exam, and then California had 2 additional tests. I can't remember how long they were, but they were much shorter than the 8-hour.
Okay.
Yeah. How was the power exam? What did it?
It was tough. I failed twice, and then I took a class the third time before, and that helped me a lot.
Nice. So you passed this time?
Passed.
Sweet.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's exciting to have passed, to put it behind me.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong certificate. It's, it wasn't easy, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah. It takes time to study and dedicate for that.
Yes, it does.
But, it's worth it. You
Yes.
spent a lot of time, and now you're reaping in the rewards.
Yes, reaping in the rewards. It's nice knowledge to have. I'm actually happy with the knowledge.
Did you feel like did power help you with your current role?
I'm a systems engineer as much as I am a software engineer. So when I first got into my career, I was doing a lot of power, working with power control systems, realizing that power played a huge role in even allowing the system to function at all. And if it wasn't clean and if it wasn't readily available, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters because you don't have power to run it.
Yeah.
And so I realized that, and then I realized it was pretty important at that point. And I had a pretty adamant professor in college who was like, power wasn't very well placed in our curriculum at the beginning of my time at UCSD as in the electrical and computer department. But by the end, there'd been a professor who came in and he started really speaking about how important this branch of electrical engineering is, and we really need to put it in. So the curriculum came in, and so that in combination with my initial job that dealt heavily with power, and even my second job deals heavily with power, I was like, yeah, might as well. And I'm an electrical engineer, so that's there's other types like transmission. I'm not that passionate on transmission. Power is something that I actually enjoy, like transmission lines, power grids.
Okay, so is power that you're referring to more like circuits?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. And getting a certain amount of wattage to different loads in a circuit. It's complicated for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. And that's the cool part, I think, about engineering. Whichever field you end up going in, there's so much to learn.
Yes.
And there's, like, you can never get too deep down in it, I feel, because there's always something else.
No, there's always something else. One of the most intriguing forms of engineering for me right now is bioengineering.
Mhm.
I think, you and I have our engineering disciplines, and a lot of people in biology don't have an engineering discipline,
Mhm.
and medicine don't have an engineering discipline. So, and I think it's a natural s- integration that's happening.
Mhm.
Maybe not completely there at all, but is on in the next 30, 40 years. Biology and technology.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is already starting, right? Like
Yes.
prosthetics and like implants and stuff.
Pacemakers.
Yeah, pacemakers. Um, trying to think what else.
Most monitors you can consider, like
Oh, like a heart rate monitor.
heart rate,
Yeah.
glucose.
Hmm.
It's definitely happening.
Yeah, it is.
I think it'll be more integrated, but it's very crazy, like the idea of integrating technology and biology.
Hmm. Yeah, as long as it's something that enhances but doesn't replace, I think that's like a good path forward.
What would be a replacement?
Like, say we got super good in the future that a prosthetic arm is better than a normal arm.
Yes.
Would it be good for someone to go into the doctor and say, I'm kind of over this flesh and bone. Can I get the prosthetic one? And they just, hack off a perfectly good arm.
That's kind of like a lot of cosmetic surgery
Yeah.
could be argued with that.
It could.
But it is one other thing in that same regard. CRISPR, I think one thing I spoke about this with someone else. It's like
And I see you have a book on it too. Oh, no, that's not CRISPR.
I do have one on CRISPR. Which one did you think?
I thought it was the CISSP.
No, that's on cybersecurity.
Okay.
But one interesting thing is like there supposedly
Mhm.
2 babies in China at least that are immune to HIV
Oh, wow.
through CRISPR technology.
Mhm.
Apparently that I don't know this was a headline years ago before COVID.
Mhm.
A scientist in China did that.
Yeah.
Used CRISPR technology to make 2 babies immune
Mhm.
to HIV.
And I believe he did that without like the consent of the parents, right?
I don't know. I know he didn't do that with the consent of the government,
Oh, definitely.
which is important.
Yeah.
I didn't know he did that without the parents either.
And maybe I'm getting it wrong, but I think he was like disbarred or from the medical society in China after he did that.
I heard so too.
Yeah.
But regardless, if it's true,
Mhm.
there are 2 children out there that are immune to HIV/AIDS,
Yeah.
which is incredible.
Mhm.
And that is something that I think about when it becomes something blatantly more obvious.
Mhm.
Like, I don't even know, maybe super strength, super intelligence, super whatever that may be. When there are people like, the arm is one thing.
Mhm.
If it's cosmetic or prosthetic, but it's just a cosmetic increase in, I don't know, whatever. It's deemed more beautiful. But what happens when there are people who have not had their genes edited
Mhm.
on the same planet as people who've had their genes heavily edited?
Yeah.
And
Have you seen the movie Gattaca, I think?
no, I haven't.
Okay, it's exactly that.
What? Oh, wow. How does it go?
It's a society filled with at conception, you go to the doctor and the doctor says like, oh, this child is is going to be predisposed to like this and this, or what we could do is take like your best egg and his best sperm and then like make you the best possible child. So then it's just a world of like the best possible children. And then on the fringe, it's all the people that didn't choose to do that, or the parents chose not to do that. So they were given like the menial tasks in life, like cleaning, while the others were given the more respected and important jobs.
Wow. When was this released?
Oh, it's an old movie.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll send you a link to it after this.
Okay. Yes, that'd be interesting to see. Mm-hmm. Do you have any takeaways on how that society, like based off of the way you saw that?
I mean, it was a like dystopian type of movie and presented in a way that, it's not. I think my biggest takeaway, it's not really ours to say how our life is going to live completely.
Yes.
There has to be an element of chance. There has to be.
It's scary.
It is. But if there's not, then, I guess it gets to that point where, things are just almost controlled at that point.
Yes. What do you mean by that?
Like, you have to have X, Y, and Z in order to advance. And if you don't, then now you're ostracized into this other group because you chose the natural route, whereas these people chose like the human intervention route.
And it's controlled because if you want to be a part of it, you have to get X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. Like, yes, like standardized testing.
Yeah, like standardized testing, which I guess they're getting rid of now.
Are they?
Yeah, you haven't seen that?
Wow, which types?
I think the UC system got rid of the SAT and the ACT. So now it's just based on
grades?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I was not one to... I mean, I had a decent SAT score, but, like, I know... What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think... Personally, there probably should be some minimum threshold for you to enter into one of these campuses. Because, if you're a D student, are you going to do well in a school? Maybe. I mean, maybe that D student just never really applied himself, but... they never really applied themselves. What's the odds of them graduating from the school? Whereas if you just accept only the 4.0 students, that I don't know. It's a tough topic. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I've heard the argument that some people struggle very hard with school, and that the SAT is a good way for them to show their skills in another fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, with most tests I've taken, it's about, do you know how to work the test?
Yeah.
And that usually comes into, did you take a class that understands the test and it's going to teach you how to take this test, this one test?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I agree with it. I think, I don't know if I'm too heavily in favor. I have my own beliefs on, education right now. I'm not, like, I enjoyed school, but the education itself, was it the highest? I don't know if it was the highest quality or even worth all the amount of time that was put into it for the years, like between my ages of 6 to 18.
Okay, so this is pre-college.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so what were we talking about?
SAT scores, or getting rid of the SAT?
Okay. Yes. So I'm not sure. But even with that, I think that a lot of it comes down to, did you take a class before you took this test that
Mm-hmm.
will teach you how to take this one test? So I'm not too big on getting rid of testing. I'm not a huge fan of testing.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
It is.
I did take classes on the SAT, but I think I think I took one before the classes, and then I took one after, and I got like 10 points higher, which is like
Wow.
nothing.
I
Yeah.
took 2 classes. Before one, I got like a certain score, and then after the second one, I got over 200 points higher.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
it's a huge difference.
And then that helped you get into UCSD, right?
That helped. I actually got rejected from UCSD, and then I appealed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. The appeal was super easy. It was a 300-word essay.
Really?
Yeah. 300 word. That's not even an essay. That's a paragraph.
Yeah.
So
And then they accepted you after that?
they accepted me. Berkeley's was like a 2,500-word essay, which
Yeah.
isn't that hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then UCLA's was like, no, I'm sorry. UCLA's was 2,500 word, and then UC Berkeley's was like just impossible. It was just like too much work for me to even consider.
Did you end up writing an appeal for that one?
No, not. I only wrote an appeal for UCSD.
Just because it was the shortest one? Or
Yeah,
because you
just
wanted
'cause
to
it
go there?
Shortest one,
Nice.
just because it was 300 words and really easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got someone else to do it too. Like someone else didn't get into the
Mhm.
UCSD either from my high school, and then I was like, "Yo, I'm appealing. It's only a 300-word paragraph," and he did it, and he got in.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I never knew that was a thing.
I think they changed the appeal process since
Okay.
then. It's probably much harder now.
Yeah, now it's probably closer to UCLA's or Berkeley's.
Yes, I can't believe getting into school is so hard now.
Yeah. It's really tough. I don't think I could get into UCSD now if I were to,
You think so?
Yeah, I think if I were a graduating senior in high school right now, I think I would have a hard time getting into UCSD.
Wow.
Because I had like average SAT scores, but I had extracurriculars as well. And I think that's probably what got me in to UCSD. But I mean, that goes back to what I was sort of saying before, because it should be some sort of minimum threshold. These tests or even your GPA from high school, and then after that, then that's when the selection process should begin. But it's almost too hard to get to there if you needed to have like a 4.5 in high school and 90th percentile of like an SAT or an ACT to get into these places.
Yes. It changes it too.
Yeah.
Puts a lot of stress on the individual.
Mm-hmm. And like my sister went through a lot of that to get into med school, which is like insane to
It is
get
insane.
into unless you have a good MCAT score. But she was able to go to she got a master's program in medicine, medical master's program, at the same school she's at now for med school. And what they did was, if you did well enough on your test, or well enough in their master's program, they'll give you an interview to their med school. And then she did well enough, so she got the interview, and then from there she got into med school.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting for your sister.
Thanks. Yeah, she's killing it too.
Nice. Wow. Med school, very tough.
Yeah. Not for me.
Not for me either.
Yeah, so much schooling, and then the residency, and if you want to be a surgeon, that's like another 5 or 10 years, and it's a lot.
It's a lot.
But that goes back to like, if you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what the requirements are.
Yes. Passionate about not being in school, personally.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Did you get your master's?
I did. Yeah, mine was really quick.
1 year at
was-
UCSD?
Yeah, it was a year and a quarter,
Okay.
so it wasn't bad at all. But I got offered a PhD position, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days before I was going to like graduate with my master's.
Wow.
And I considered it for a day or two, and then I told the professor, like, I can't. I'm like, mentally I'm done.
Mentally done. Financially, it's not even that responsible.
Yeah. They pay you a little bit, but it's not enough.
It's not enough. And it's not even about, in my opinion, what they pay you. It's about the 3 or 4 years of
Mhm.
income that you lose right then. Those are,
Right.
I mean, I think
It's the opportunity cost.
I've heard your dad presented to our fraternity one time, and he made that. It was mostly the only thing I took away from it was that investing early will make your life it compounds, and it will make life like you can have so much more money later
Yeah.
by investing earlier than if you invest later.
Yeah, and it was even like you invest even more than the person did when they were investing earlier. It's like maybe you invest a total of 5,000 for a period of like 5 years, but the other person invests like 50,000, or I'm conflating the numbers, but it was something like that.
Yes. And so losing out on, even if they do pay you, it's still like you're going to have a difference in income compared to being in the industry. And you can do many things. You can enjoy it. You can invest it. You can do both. And then just a little bit more financial freedom too.
Yeah.
Which is important.
It is. Yeah, because you want to be able to enjoy life as well.
Enjoy life, feel comfortable. And yeah, I mean, not to say that people that take on these programs wouldn't feel comfortable. I mean, you would have been pretty young. That would have been 3 or 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
I probably would have been done now-ish. I had a friend at the time. He went straight into the PhD program when I went straight into the master's program, and he just finished like 6 months ago, I think.
What's his, have you talked to him about it?
No, he's been traveling through South America right now.
Yeah, so. I bet.
He needed the break.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, more power to those people. But I've been enjoying working. It's a different life.
Yeah, it's totally different.
You really have to be in a different mind state. Because it's not like school where it's like you just go to class and you're going to see 3 to 15 people that you know. It's like, especially if you work from home, now it's a whole, I mean, you don't work from home, but working from home is like a whole new thing. But even not working from home, you kind of have to get used to a different pace.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good thing, though.
Yes.
I mean, I much prefer it than school. I mean, one, you get paid.
Yes.
So that's great.
That's great. I mean, that makes it so much better. Honestly, it's not as hard either. I mean, it can be.
Yeah, it can be. It can get stressful during deadlines and stuff, but I think overall, like the quality of life is
much higher.
Yeah. The one thing I do miss about school is like how my day was so like varied.
Yes.
Where maybe on Tuesday, Thursdays, I'd have class in like the middle of the day, but Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, I'd have class like in the mornings.
Yes.
So that was kind of nice to have a little bit of a
variety.
Yeah, a variety. Whereas, work, it's you're working, during these hours.
Yes.
I actually went on a bike ride this morning with some of my coworkers. We're doing Padres Pedal the Cause in a couple weeks. We get to do, it's for cancer research, but as part of it, you're doing a 25-mile bike ride around San Diego, and you get to go over the Coronado Bridge.
Okay.
So that'll be really fun, but I haven't like ridden on a bike in years.
Wow.
So one of my coworkers had an extra bike, and we went out this morning, just a quick 12-mile bike ride.
How long did that take?
I think like an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, not too long.
Did you start from the office?
No, started from like around Mission Bay area.
Okay.
And then my office is just right around the corner from you.
Yes.
Which is nice.
Yes.
But yeah, I actually work from home typically Thursdays and Fridays.
Nice.
But today, since I was over there and then I was doing this podcast, I went into the office today.
Okay.
Yeah. We also do half-day Fridays, which is nice.
Half-day Fridays?
Yeah, every week.
Nice.
So we do a 9-hour day, Monday through Thursday, and then Fridays are a half day. And when you get to like actually take the half day, it feels like a long weekend. Yes.
Long weekends are good.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to take time.
Yeah.
It's tough because like it's easy to get caught up in it here in that too. Like especially during COVID, like not putting like boundaries on our
Mm-hmm.
work. But it's important to keep boundaries, like, because it'll improve the quality of work too.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have boundaries, then there's like a lot of fog and you don't know what's what. There's very little focus, and
Mm-hmm.
maintaining those is helpful.
Yeah. So are you completely work from home?
Yes.
So how do you maintain your boundaries?
I in the morning, it's varied, but being okay with not being online at all times is
Mhm.
important. Being okay with working when it makes sense.
Hmm.
Like, I think if we work remotely, you know, the 24-hour day is at our disposal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can bust out a couple hours at 7 p.m. at night, that's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you can bust it out at 9:30 a.m., that's great too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one thing, is like turning it on and off, but knowing when to turn it on.
Mm-hmm. So is your work pretty flexible with that? That you can like start and stop whenever?
Yes, I think that's the nature of remote work,
Mm-hmm.
because you can send a bunch of pings out, but then you also have to wait on the replies, and so it's not always so helpful to just be here waiting on replies. But like constantly being in communication is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, some people struggle with it remotely. If doing it remotely and doing it in person are not, they're somewhat similar, but they're not completely similar.
Yeah, like if someone were to walk over to your desk and like distract you from your task, like you're distracted immediately.
Yes, but
Yeah.
for some people,
Mhm.
doing that is really easy, whereas for them, pinging someone online
Yeah.
is much more of a challenge.
It is, because you don't see what they're doing.
Yes.
I think that's probably something to do with it. And I definitely experienced that like right before 2020. There was a guy in my office at the time. He was pretty much the only one I would go to like ask questions, because we were a smaller office, and the office director at the time, also super knowledgeable, but wasn't around so much to ask for questions. So I would be bugging my coworker most of the time, and I didn't really realize it at the time, but I was probably distracting him like a lot. But then once we started working from home, I would try to work on things a lot more, like on my own, spin my wheels a bit, and then when I get stuck, then ask someone. And I think for me that was good, because it kind of helped me realize, okay, when I can try to do something on my own versus when I know that someone knows this answer, so okay, let me just go reach out to them.
Yes. It's recognizing that is important, and we don't want to be stuck doing a problem that's already been solved.
Yeah.
So, like we said, and getting yourself the tools to be well equipped. Like, so if there is something I don't know, I ask that individual,
Mhm.
and then learn from what they're saying, and then maybe one more time
Mm-hmm.
ask them for help. But then after that, to get a solid understanding of what's supposed to be done, how
Mhm.
to do it, and to get taught how to fish.
Yeah. Instead of them just giving you the fish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's important though too, not to get stuck on the same problem and just like I said, do something that's already been solved, but then get stuck. And just, this was something I learned in school, like not communicating the issue sometimes is a huge handicap.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, just like, even if you feign ignorance or just like admit that you're not looking like the most savvy engineer, I think it's worth it communicating issues because they can be solved so much more quickly
Mhm.
if everyone knows. But again, you have to walk that fine line.
Yeah.
Not play the boy who screamed wolf.
Right. Yeah, so at least one thing with working in the office compared to at home, you're overhearing conversations that are happening in the office.
Yes.
But once you're working from home, you don't hear any of those
No.
conversations. So that was one big thing
Huge.
that I felt, especially for engineers jumping into their career, which we had one that was in our office for like 2 weeks, and then we all went home. It's probably harder for that individual to learn.
Yes.
As much as someone who got to hear those outside conversations. Because when I would hear those, when there was a break or saw them walking around and be like, oh, what was all that about? And then they talk about it and I learned something new.
Yes. Doesn't happen as often.
No, not as often. But I like the balance that we have.
Yes.
With this schedule, because it's Monday through Wednesday, everyone's in the office. Thursday, Friday, there's some people in the office, but you're at least getting that, sense of community of your work
Yes.
as well.
That's important.
Mm-hmm.
The balance is important too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like before COVID, there was, at least for me, working nearly 5 days a week, it was very little balance, and it was, looking back on it, just not, I don't know, 5 days versus 3 days is a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely is. And then it's nice for, especially now with gas prices.
Yeah, with
not
gas
having
prices.
to drive as often.
Yes. I mean, that's another, really good point
Mhm.
to that price is put on the employee.
Mhm.
It's not the employer.
The price of gas.
The price of gas, the price of the commute, the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before that, and employers, that's not to say anything. That's something employers need to recognize. It's like,
And I think they do with, a typical
Yes.
like inflation raise that a lot of companies do. At least companies I've been with, there's always some sort of like salary adjustment once a year to account for increased price of living.
yes, this year it's increased quite a bit.
Yep.
So they're going to need to, I don't know. We'll see. People have to be smart on how they handle their compensation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not simple.
Yeah. No, it's not a simple issue.
But yes, gas prices, food prices,
Mm-hmm.
home prices,
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah, everything is too expensive.
Everything is too expensive. Not good.
Oh, hopefully that gets corrected.
Hopefully. I don't know.
I mean, you're a realtor, right?
Yeah.
So do you actively work in real estate or?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, what do you see with the market?
It's hot. Super hot.
Do you think it's going to slow down?
It doesn't look like it. The real estate market is super hot.
Yeah.
It's in San Diego, in the
Mhm.
city of San Diego. Probably the rest other places too, but here, it's there's not really a sign of slowing it, if it's slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
At least based off of what I analyze, which are starter homes,
Mm-hmm.
which, I don't know how much the more expensive homes are going for, because that's like, those aren't that's a bit of a different market,
Mm-hmm.
but still, it does not seem, based off of other realtors I'm speaking to, like it's slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
But rates are increasing.
Yeah.
Mortgage prices are higher than they would have been 3 months ago.
Right.
So
because of that, there should be a correction, at least on the price of homes, right?
there should be. There should be.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a lower demand. We need a higher supply, I think,
Mhm.
at the end of the day. It's just, what do you think about zoning restrictions?
So I thought that it would be, at one point I thought that like zoning restrictions like ADUs on multiple or on a single property. Is that what you're talking about?
What do you mean? No, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Well, there's a push to if you have a single family home and maybe you have like quite a big backyard or front yard, putting a granny flat or a additional dwelling unit, ADU is what they call them, on your property, and then basically now that's a new home for someone to move into. So when I first heard of that, it sounded pretty good, but I've also heard the argument that now lowers the property value of like all the other homes because it's basically just cramming more people into space that can't really handle that.
I've heard that it also does that it lowers the property value of the surrounding homes.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I think it is a cost worth bearing. Homeowners in California and in the United States get a lot of benefits, and they get a lot of there's people recognize homeowners and they want to keep them happy because politicians and government want to keep homeowners happy because they're the backbone of America. They usually have incomes, they provide taxes, they provide property taxes. There's good reasons to do that. But there's a lot of issues in especially California. High home prices. Really crazy traffic. Homelessness. Not to say homelessness would get resolved by this. There's just a lot of issues, and then the price of homes falling for homeowners. It probably might happen, but the other issues that surround the area are so pressing that
you think it justifies needing to at least have more units around?
I think it justifies is a strong word, but I think it makes sense economically to do it because also with a higher residency density, traffic is decreased, not increased. I've heard.
Okay, I'm not too sure.
I believe so. With higher residency density, traffic diminishes. And so that's a huge issue. And I think just going back, I do concede to that point that when there's more housing availability, the price is going to drop for what's already there. I think that it's something that is not too big of an issue, especially when you consider how high the housing is right now and how high it's gotten.
Yeah, because what percentage has it risen since like 2020?
Yes, like
30?
25-30%, something like that. So it's real.
Yeah, it's not nothing. That's a lot.
Yes, it is a lot, and it might correct itself. But there's a lot of problems that I think higher residency rates would solve, and I think it's going that way. I see a bunch of buildings being put up.
Oh yeah, I mean the construction industry right now is super hot.
Really?
Yeah, which was weird because when the recession happened, I was still in like high school when that happened, but construction industry took a huge hit. Projects stopped going, and a lot of firms had to let go of a lot of people.
Wow.
But so when COVID hit, the industry kind of thought that that was going to happen again, and a lot of companies like
Prepared?
tried to prepare. So my previous company, they took away like our overtime pay, and then they cut their board of directors salaries by like 30%.
Wow.
Yeah, like they went crazy, but that kept them afloat as well. But then, fast forward like a couple months, it was almost the opposite. Like everyone is just getting so much work. There's so much construction going on right now.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What an interesting time.
It is. It's a moment in history.
Yes, it is. We definitely won't forget it.
Yeah.
How do you think? So you're in the construction
Mm-hmm.
industry. What do you think about this? That the increase in construction over the last 2 years?
Well, I always thought with COVID and like with everyone working from home that like the commercial real estate market would tank, because why go into an office if you can just send all your employees home and have them work from home. I think that'll probably work for some industries and some businesses more so than others, but from like anyone who I've talked to that's like in the commercial real estate area, that they're not worried. That
Really?
Yeah, they're not worried. So
what's the reason they're not worried?
I'm not sure, but like there's still demand.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
In my company, my company has a pretty good culture that I'm with, and we're trying to take over the entire floor. So when I joined, we had I don't know, maybe 70% of the floor. We just took another chunk of that, so maybe we're at 75 or 80%, and we're just waiting for the lease to end up for the other tenant on the floor, and then we're going to take over that space
Really?
too. Yeah.
Have you talked to the landlord about it?
No, this is all the
Speculation.
the higher ups that are doing this.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the plan, at least that they're advertising to the rest of us.
Wow, that's interesting. Hot market.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a time in point in history.
Yeah. Whether we like it or not.
Whether we like it or not. Hopefully it turns out to have a pretty mild and neutral plateau or decline down.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy. Like what's going on in, Russia, Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Very crazy.
Yeah.
And the next 3 to 10 to 15 years are going to be super interesting.
What makes you think that?
There is going to be, we have an aging population. A lot of the most, we have an aging population. And I think that in some industries we have a sharp contrast in demographics of people that work in the industry. For example, I was talking to a nuclear engineer 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was saying that the number of nuclear engineers that are being trained and output by schools has dropped.
Really?
Yes. Whereas software engineers have gone drastically up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are other industries that have older demographics of in employment that maybe they'll be fine, but it'll be interesting to see as older generations retire and leave the workforce, how the country, the United States, handles it.
Mm-hmm.
How we're able to do that generational power transition it's probably going to be very subtle and slow, and there's not going to be like this one thing that happens. It's going to be like a series, and then you look back over 5 or 10 years and like, oh wow, that all happened.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then,
I mean, it's kind of like with the explosion of like the tech industry over
Yes.
our upbringing.
yes, and continuing
Yeah.
explosion.
Mm-hmm.
Genetics, I think that'll be huge. Be another big. People look at meta and talk about meta, but I think the integration between biology and medicine is going to be much more, have much higher implications for us than the metaverse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know too much about either.
You don't know. I don't know too much about bioengineering. Metaverse, I'm decently. I mean, there's not so much. I mean, in the way people think about it, there's not so much there. Do you know what the metaverse is?
I've had so the way I think of it is like Sims, but
Yes.
but you're the Sim.
Yes. But that's, yes, that is. That's like the utopia of the metaverse.
Okay.
Zoom could also be considered a metaverse application.
Zoom, like the video conference?
Yes.
Oh.
Because you're still like an avatar
Mm-hmm.
in a soft environment.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not immersed in it so deeply, but you're still immersed in it somewhat. Like, that is the metaverse, that Zoom screen. And you're immersed in it through your avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the utopia thing that we're thinking of, but where it's like Sims, but it's a very multifaceted word.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I mean, that'll be interesting to see because, like,
Yes.
I know with like Oculus and how popular that is, and I think Apple and Google are, and maybe Facebook as well, is also trying to develop their own type of Oculus
Yes.
type of thing. I mean, yeah. Have you ever put one on? Like, it's pretty
Incredible.
crazy.
I put on a Microsoft one, and it was incredible. Have you?
Yeah. It's wild. I was like boxing with, just someone, and like they come at you, and you're just like, ooh.
You thought it was really
Like it's not, it's not real, but it still tricks you. Almost like if you're watching a scary movie and something pops out at you, it's not real, but there's still some natural reflex in you that says danger.
wow. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't imagine playing like a scary game or something on one of those.
No, like yeah, I'm sure some games will come out.
Yeah.
I'm imagining, even for your job, there's going to be some metaverse capabilities, like say you model out a stadium or a bridge. I'm imagining you can put on some 3D glasses and start walking that bridge.
Yeah, they actually have that. I think Microsoft, at least I've seen that before. They have like their glasses or whatever, and you can see the building and walk around it. And for that application, it's useful because you can like put all of the different trades models in that one, application thing that you're looking at, and then you can see what are the obvious like errors right there. Because if you can fix them before it goes out to the contractor, like that's going to be a lot simpler for everyone.
And that's available?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah. I was actually at a hackathon when I saw that.
What's hackathon?
A hackathon. It was in Seattle, and this was in 2019, and my company was hosting it. So I went up there, and you join a team. I think ours was like 7 people, and I wasn't able to contribute so much because I didn't know how to code, but I could offer up ideas and stuff. But everyone comes together, and there's like different workshops throughout the event, and then it ends with that group of people that you had. You guys come up someone comes up with an idea, and then the groups form by saying like, oh, okay, I think that idea is worth pursuing. So you go, to that idea, and then you guys work for 24 hours to try to make that idea work.
Wow. Did you sleep?
Yeah, I slept. I thought that you don't sleep in these hackathons. I'd never been on one. But we finished up like not terribly late, but like decent enough time that I was still able to get a good night's rest.
Nice.
Yeah. So what we did for ours, like Pokemon Go, where you have your phone and like you see the Pokemon, you can like walk around it.
Yes.
So everyone that was at this hackathon was in the construction industry. And what we wanted to do was do Pokemon Go, but for a building. So you'd have this structure, and you'd load that structure in, and then you could overlay onto that structure different parameters. So someone in the group had like a ship that they modeled, and there was a blast next to the ship, and you could see all of the stresses that happened in the ship as that blast is propagating throughout the ship.
Wow.
So we were able to have the ship in like a Pokemon Go fashion where you can walk around it, and then you could see in real time how the stress is propagating throughout this ship. And it was super cool. I have no idea how we did it because I couldn't code, but it was cool to see that, a group of people got together and then in less than a day were able to come up with some solution.
That is very cool. The one nice thing about software is how you can create something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not...
Bless you.
Thank you. It's not too intensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like hardware or structure, it's like, this is going to be very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
High cost.
Yeah. You get to do a lot of iterations.
Yes. Yes. A lot of iterations, and if something goes wrong, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Whereas if in the structure something goes wrong, it could be deadly.
Yeah. It could be. We hold a lot of people's lives in our hands. The
Yes.
public trusts engineers that we know what we're doing.
Yes.
And, it's not just for when the earthquakes come. It's also for, just like right now, where we're sitting on the second floor of a building and we're not falling down.
Yes.
And the roof isn't collapsing over our heads. And grateful for that.
Grateful. Take it for granted
Mm-hmm.
almost every day.
Yep. But, I mean, same thing when, we're walking outside, and it doesn't rain here too much, but, when it does, the rain does a pretty good job of finding its way to the drains, and we don't have, like, floods everywhere.
Yes.
And that's the same part in, like, most of the developed world, too. It's, there's a lot of stuff that we take for granted, but that keep our society running.
And it's important to recognize that stuff when
Mm-hmm.
we can.
Yeah.
And be grateful for it.
Definitely.
Because
you never know if it gets pulled out from under you.
Oh, hopefully not.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, are there any last words you'd like to tell the audience?
No, I think this was great, Krush. Glad to finally be on.
I'm glad you're finally on too. My guest today is Paul Tominna. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Paul.
Thanks, Krush.